Hey yo, what's up everyone? It's your boy CrispPurpose back at it again with another Gems of War guide video for you guys. Now in this one, we're going to be taking a look at the Dragonite dragons for this video. Every single typing of Dragonite dragons, from the Gem dragons to the Cosmic dragons to the Floral dragons. What are we going to be taking a look at? We're going to be seeing which type of Dragonite dragons are the best for players to craft first. So, whether you are a new player or a returning player to Gems of War, which set of Dragonite dragons should you focus on crafting first? Should you go for the Gem dragons first? Should you go for the Cosmic dragons first? Or should you go for the most recent ones, the Floral dragons first? Right? We're going to be taking a look at these and see the advantages and disadvantages of every single type of Dragonite dragons. So stick around and watch the end of this video to see what would be my recommendation for your first craft of Dragonite dragons. Now let's get into it. Now, what are the areas in which we're going to be examining these different Dragonite dragons? So for one, we're going to be taking a look at the mana cost and color, as well as the traits on these Dragonite dragons, their spell mechanics, as well as their spell damage, right? Those are the four areas that we're going to be considering. All right, so let's take a look at the first one. The first one is the mana cost and mana color. So for one, the mana cost on the different gem dragons, as you guys can see here with Amethyst, is 28, right? Only Diamantina has a mana cost of 30. So as a result, these troops are pretty easy to get spell ready in comparison to the other floral and cosmic dragons because they have a higher mana cost. Of course, there's not much synergy when it comes on to colors for these different troops. Do not pay attention to this one. This is not included. It comes up because that's how it works. It has gem scale. So once you put in gems, it pops up nonetheless. All right. So let's move on. So yeah, they all have a 28 mana cost and varying mana colors, but the lower mana cost is definitely beneficial. The others definitely have a higher mana cost. Now, another area to take into consideration, of course, as I mentioned before, is the traits. So all these dragons come with a storm. So, as for example, with Amethyst here, it has the Song of Darkness, which is a dark storm, a purple storm at the start of battle. Very useful on these. As well as, I think this is the only version that has this high level of skull damage reduction, 55%. Very good. And then the final trait, giving um, two magic to all allies of a particular color. That is very useful as well. So in that way, the gem dragons have an advantage over the cosmic as well as the floral dragons because they have a lower mana cost, and the trait of skull damage reduction is pretty high. Now, when you look though at the gem mechanics, they have an advantage here because the gem mechanics of creating those are converting a particular color into giant gems. All of them do the same type, giant gems. That's a main power gem that they put on the board. That is very, very good because they give more mana as a result of those giant gems being matched. I can speak of many times when I play the Underspire for different kingdoms. So, for example, when we have a Silverglade Underspire, or for example, when we have a Draxzoom Underspire, I can use my Garnitalin, and just matching those gems will allow me to get a lot of mana to my troops. Hold up, seems like I'm getting a call here. Is Cam calling? Hello, baby girl, I'm recording. Okay. I'll cut this part out and get back to the thing. Tata. I'll call you back. All right. Bye-bye. Bye. All right. So just got interrupted by the wife, but nonetheless, I'll keep on recording this video. All right. So yeah, the different dragons here have the ability of putting those, giant gems on the board. They're very good for getting mana. Match a couple of them, and there you go. The troop is spell ready once again. So that's an advantage for these different gem dragons. But one thing I want to say though, when it comes down to the spell damage for these troops, they are some of the weaker ones. They definitely don't stand up in comparison to cosmic dragons as well as the new flower dragons. The magic damage on these is pretty low. I think it's just magic plus, I don't remember the exact stats on these. But as you guys can see here, I have 48 magic on my Amethyst, and I'm doing 78 damage with a boost ratio of +2 per purple gem on the board. So it's not that much. They can be used though in the mid level of Explore as well as in some PvP scenarios, as well as on the Spy. They're pretty good, but they're not as powerful as the other dragons. All right, so that's the first look at the gem dragons. We're going to move on to the cosmic dragons right after this. And here are all of the cosmic dragons, right? In Gems of War. These are pretty cool. In fact, when it comes down to the cosmic dragons, I genuinely really like these, and there are a number of different reasons why I like them. But I'm going to stick to why you guys should craft these dragons and see which one would benefit you. So for one, when it comes down to the mana color and mana costs, of course it goes up by 2 in comparison to the mana cost, I should say, goes up by 2 when you compare it to the gem dragons. But of course, the mana colors is very good on these troops. If you notice, every single cosmic dragon uses brown mana, every single one. So as a result, there's like standardized teams that you can just plop these onto, and they'll work really, really good, really, really good. For one, the spell damage is stronger. So when it comes down to spell damage, this is way stronger. When it comes down to the spell mechanics, right? So the particular power gem that they convert or put on the board, the dragon gems that these put on the board are pretty good. Dragon gems are very useful. You'd prefer to have them at the higher parts of the board, so you want them at the top so that they can explode and then fire down, because that's how the gem mechanic works. They're really good. They're really good for getting mana to your troops, and for example, stopping the enemy troops from getting mana. Because if they have a 4 gem match onto those dragon gems, you can just match that dragon gem at the top and explode the ones at the bottom, preventing the enemy troops from getting them if the turn is going to pass to them. So that's very, very good to point out. For example, now when it comes on to the traits, as you guys can see, this has skull damage reduction and spell damage reduction. So that is a clear advantage in comparison to the gem dragons, right? You go down a little bit on the skull damage reduction and you pick up a wholesome amount of spell damage reduction. So you go down on skull, get more spell damage reduction. Really, really good. Of course, the final trait isn't as good as the one on the gem dragons. At least some persons would say. I think that it is better in some respects because this gives one to all skill points on all blue allies, right? Right, when matching blue gems, for example, right here with Comathelis, as opposed to the gem dragons, it only gives that 2 to the magic. Of course, for a majority of players, they only want the magic, but the additional stats to all your skills is pretty good. So that's 1 to your attack, 1 to your HP, 1 to your armor, right? And it goes on. That is, in my opinion, the best part. Even though you lose a little bit of magic, you gain more to your other stats. Makes you a little bit more tanky. Makes your attack damage from skulls a little bit stronger. That's just me. That's how I view it. I think that the cosmic dragons are definitely one of the better all-rounded options. Of course, when you look at the main cosmic dragon, which is Stellarex, you see a lot more advantages. For one, Stellarex has the ability to loop, right? Because you put those elemental stars and umbral stars on the board. When you look back, though, at let me go back here and go back to let me go back to gem dragons again, so I can show you guys this. Um, did I not type that in? Come on, bro, get it together here. We're trying to make a video. All right, when we type this in and we go back to Diamantina, Diamantina does not have any board control somewhat. She has an ability to get an extra turn for sure. She has a Bone Storm, which is pretty good. And defensively, it's great, as you guys can notice from PvP, because of what the devs did to switch out the different Stellarex to Diamantina options. But that's it. She doesn't have any board control. When you go back to Stellarex now, Stellarex has all the control in the world, right? Let's bring her up right here, all the control, because he puts those elemental stars and umbral stars on the board, allowing her to loop over and over again and just kill out your team. That's the main reason why the devs took it out. And I really like it. I really, really like it. So when it comes on to the mana cost and color and the traits, spell mechanics, as well as spell damage, I think that the Cosmic Dragons, without a doubt, are better than the Gem Dragons in those respects. I think that it's a notch above the others. Of course, there's a disadvantage of not having a storm, so you have to procure that as out of a class or maybe from a different troop on the team. But regardless, I think that this is a more powerful typing in every way in comparison to the Gem Dragons. That's my opinion. So far, for me, these stand out way better. All right, so let's move on then to the final typing, which is going to be the newer floral dragons. Okay, so here are the new floral dragons, starting from Belcerulia, Chrysantherax, Gladius, Narcissus, Orchideus, Orisia, and Thornarissa. Right, these troops are really powerful troops, very solid troops. So let's take a look at the different areas here. So the mana color and cost on these, there's not much synergy here, almost nothing that like works very nicely together. There might be some synergy in the kingdoms, but overall, I want to say this as well. The cosmic dragons, in my opinion, have the best synergy when it comes down to their different kingdoms. The best synergy, because of where they're from. I think they're the best when it comes down to that. But when you look at the new floral dragons, the mana color and cost, no synergy. The the mana cost is really high, 32. It's the highest out of every single one. When you look at the traits on these troops, so for example, a spell damage reduction is only 25%, no skull damage reduction, only skull damage reflect. So you will take that skull damage, but you will reflect 35% off it to the enemy troop that deals the skull damage to you. And then the final trait, that aura trait, stealing life for life when matching blue gems, and it doesn't specify which troop on the enemy team is stealing life from. I think it's just stealing it from the first enemy. The traits overall are the worst out of all the different dragons. On the floral dragons, the traits are the worst. The skull damage reflect is okay, but no. If you really want tankiness, you want to stick with the other two typings. And now let's look at the spell mechanics and the spell damage. Spell damage is amazing, right? The spell damage is really high. I think it's magic times 3 damage that these suckers do to all enemies. Really powerful. The mechanics, though, are it's a little bit all over the place, right? So this, for example, Belcerolia right here converts 5 blue gems to spirit gems. There's 10% chance for an extra turn boosted by blue gems. Because of the kingdom that it's from, this is Zulkari. Zulkari has no synergy with blue. It's more purple and green, right? It's a green kingdom. You use green deeds to level the kingdom, and troops there generally focus around green and blue and purple, right? Green, purple, no blue. Right. So I don't see the reason why this is putting spirit gems on the board. And even more so, when it comes down to the kingdom itself, majority of them have an immunity to mana drain, which is what spirit gems do. Right. So in that, the mechanics are very weirdly positioned on these troops if you look around, right? Of course, you have exceptions, for example, like Narcissus right here. This troop creates barrier gems, one of the most tanky of all the Dragonite dragons, regardless of category, right? Out of everything. So it's a weird mix, but genuinely for me, I think that the cosmic dragons still outshine every other ones when it comes on to these different areas, right? Synergy with the kingdom, of course. The main floral dragon, which is Chrysantherax, I think that it still is outstanding because of just how much spell damage it does. The spell damage is high as hell. Magic times 3.25, I think that's what was quoted from the devs. Magic times 3.25, I think +6 or something like that damage to all enemies. Exploding those skulls, 10% chance for an extra turn boosted by skulls. Exploded. Very powerful troop. But if you're a newer player and you got all of your, or even more, if you're an experienced player or returning player and you got all of your Dragonite dragons or the floral dragons crafted, you have everything except this, right? Or you have all of the what are they called? The cosmic dragons, right? I would recommend genuinely, in my opinion, to go with Stellarix over Chrysantherax. That is my final verdict. If you look at Stellarix, let me type it in right here. If you look at Stellarix, right? Stellarix has a 32 mana cost. Chrysantherax has 2 higher mana cost. That's a disadvantage for that. Stellarix deals AoE damage to all enemies, same as Chrysantherax, but she puts those elemental stars and umbral stars on the board, allowing it to loop right? You're getting a little bit more damage from Chrysantherax, which is at the highest level is very important. But for a majority of players, it's not so important. The loopingness for this, the spell damage reduction with the skull damage reduction is way better. And then the ability to gain more damage with the Power of Stars final trait is just really, really good for majority of game modes, PvP, Explore, Tower of Doom, whatever it is that you might gonna do Guild Wars. I genuinely feel that Stellarex is way better to use than Chrysantherax, and definitely way better to use than Diamantina. That is my opinion. For me, Cosmic Dragons are the most important from basic perspective for players to craft. If I was going to make a recommendation to a player, you don't have anything, you just came across your first 500 Dragonite or 600 Dragonite, and you're going to be like, okay, let me see if I can craft the Floral Dragons, the Cosmic Dragons first, or the Gem Dragons first. I would recommend go ahead and craft a Cosmic Dragon first. Focus on the Cosmic Dragon first because you're going to gain everything that you want. A good mana cost and mana color, great traits, really good gem mechanics, and really good spell damage, right? That's my opinion here. Hopefully, you guys and gals found this video helpful and informative, and hopefully, I explained things clearly and didn't just jumble things together, and you get the picture here of what I'm trying to bring across. All right, guys, I'll catch you all next one. Peace.